Music? Welcome back to Yogaxpress. Moving the body to still the mind. That's the theme of our show. My name is Banu Suresh. I'm your host for this program. To my left, we have Drue Michael. Drue, did I say your whole name right? Do you have a middle name?
Well, Michael traditionally is my middle name.
That is your middle name, okay.
But I use it as my last name professionally.
I'm going to save a little bit of a surprise with Drue after I introduce you to another special guest today, Micheline DeBono. Micheline, you're a yoga teacher as well, correct? So the big surprise is all three of us here today are yoga teachers. Drue is our guest teacher for today. He's an advanced yoga teacher, and we did our teacher training together. So I'm going to talk to Drue first and find out a little more about him, and then Micheline, if you can also basically, actually, you know what? Let's ask Micheline very quickly. Micheline, you teach kids yoga, you said?
I teach kids yoga as well as adult classes.
Right.
I teach gentle and restorative adult classes and the kids yoga.
Okay, Micheline has promised to be with us next week. Maybe in the next couple of weeks you'll see her in action as well, and she's going to be taking us through some postures. But today, Drue is our special guest teacher. Drue, we'd love to hear something about you.
Something about me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, let's see. Well, I used to be a dancer.
No wonder, I can see the graceful movement already.
Yeah, well, I tried to hold on to that
right.
training. And that's kind of how I was introduced to Yogaasana.
Right.
But I was really never that serious about it until I got into college, and I was studying actually music, not dance. And then I was so stressed out that I needed something for like therapeutic relief. So I started taking yoga at my gym. And then when I moved to New York, my mom was like, "Oh, honey, didn't you want to be a yoga teacher?" And I was like, "Well, I'd like to take yoga every day. That'd be nice." So she so graciously paid for me to do my training.
I was reading up about you, and you said you took on yoga teacher training because your mom was paying for it.
She was paying for
that.
it.
Yeah,
that's a wonderful gift.
I'm a millennial. And I was like, hey, free yoga, like, why not?
That's
I didn't
right.
know what I wanted to do with my life next, and that's what...
That was a great
that was
transition
a huge gift
for you.
from my mother, yeah.
Smart mommy.
Yeah.
Smart mommy, yeah.
Yoga world is very lucky that you actually entered, because now you're ready to teach. You're at the 500-hour level, which is the advanced level. So I'm thinking you teach all fancy stuff, because our program is very, very basic. I'm a little nervous about having to hang from ceilings and climbing walls. You're not going to make me do all that, right?
I wouldn't be able to do that myself, so I wouldn't expect anybody else to try it.
Good.
But no, I teach a lot of gentle yoga.
Very nice.
And I also teach a lot of beginner level yoga and beginning intermediate.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you talk about intermediate, how do you categorize the postures as intermediate or beginner? What is your
Well,
take on that?
I think it has to do with like the level of awareness in the body, the level of embodiment. For me, I've been practicing off and on since like 2001, and there's things that even in the last like 3 or 4 years, I've begun to understand in a different way through practicing with the teachers that I practice with now. And it's like all these things I thought made me an advanced yogi actually were hindering my practice. Like I need to bend my knees in some poses, feel my pelvis, and then all of a sudden I'm doing poses I could never do before.
Because of that greater inner awareness and what took you deeper into a posture.
Exactly.
I love that explanation, because sometimes I was under the impression that we have to be in real fancy postures to be able to be considered advanced. And it really does bother me because I started yoga very late. Micheline, I can tell my viewers too, I'm going to be hitting 60 in a couple of months. And it hasn't been easy because I started very late. I started at the age of 44 when the bones are already set. So, and the fear is already there in the mind. It's not like when you're really young, you're not afraid to fall, right? So when we start practicing when you're really young, which is why our viewers need to know that too, start really early. Talking about pelvis, was that what you said our theme was going to be today?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things you can do is thinking about the placement of the pelvis, the mula bandha,
Right.
so the pelvic floor
base chakra,
awareness. And for me, I talk about that consistently in all of my classes.
Right.
Until my students are just like so tired of hearing it, I'm sure. But it's like, you know, I want them to actually feel it. And sometimes they like hear it and they hear it and they hear it. And then all of a sudden one day they're like, whoa, like this is an energetic change in my body.
Right.
It just changes the whole way you practice yoga. I
I'm
feel.
looking forward to that advanced awareness.
Yes.
So we are in your hands.
All right, wonderful.
Go ahead.
So let's start exactly where we are,
Okay.
in a comfortable seated pose. And viewers at home, you can sit cross-legged. If being cross-legged doesn't work for you, you can extend your legs forward or even sit with the soles of your feet together. If you have blocks, you can put blocks under your knees. You can sit up on a block if that's more comfortable. And just go ahead and close your eyes to begin. And I want you to, exactly what I was just talking about, the connection of your mula bandha point to the earth. And you can even feel the muscles of your pelvic floor kind of engaging, lifting up. It's almost like it's winking, but it's like a winking that only you know about, right?
That's right.
It's kind of a cute way to think about it. It's also kind of weird, but it's a weird place to bring our awareness. Like, we don't want to think about our root chakra all the time. But it's like the most human of chakras. It connects us to our earth. And if we're not starting at the foundation, there's like really no way we can be stable when we start to build ourselves up in more advanced asanas.
I agree. Yeah.
So we don't want to skip any steps. We start as low to the ground as possible. And we take a few breaths. As we breathe, we inhale down actually into the root of our pelvis. And as you exhale, the breath flows up and out through the crown of your head. Let's take 2 more breaths just like that. One more time. Beautiful. And then you're just going to start to feel, and you can open your eyes if you need to, or you can keep your eyes closed if you want to just be completely about what you're feeling. Just starting to feel kind of a churning of your ribs. So you're moving your ribs forwards and side and back and to the other side. And it's almost like you're feeling the pelvic floor, almost like a mortar and pestle, right?
Would you like us to do the same?
Oh yes, please,
Okay.
everyone. All people, everywhere. Just feeling how you differently connect to the floor. You'll start to feel your 2 sitting bones. At some point, you'll realize that you can rock forward on your pelvis, and you can also rock back. And when you rock back, you start to come onto your tailbone. And so in the practice, and you can also alternate, you can go the opposite direction too. As you practice, we want to think most of the poses we don't want to be rocking back on our tailbone. You want this little bit of a tip forward. So everyone come here to neutral first, and then feel like you're tipping forward a little bit, right onto your mula bandha point. And so if you ever feel like there's a rounding in your lower back, or that you're coming back on the tailbone, just thinking, I'm going to lift up the muscles of my pelvic floor. And we also start to get into our second bandha, Uddiyana bandha, which is right underneath your belly button. I feel
I'm
like
glad you explained where it was,
Yeah.
because it was hard to explain mula bandha.
a mula bandha was, that's a pretty deep thing to explain. But I think of Uddiyana bandha, because I have a little bit of a belly, I think of it right between my belly and my thighs here. So with the 2 combined, I start to get this energy up my spine. And let's release our hands down to the floor.
All that churning, I'm getting into a trance here.
Oh my goodness. It's like movement meditation.
That's right. And your voice is very soothing too. So
I've been told. I used to be a singer, so I've been told I put people
what
to
do you
sleep.
know, a singer and a dancer? No, we cannot
triple
afford to
threat.
go to sleep on air. Although I'd love to.
So continue to feel your sitting bones into the floor. Now we have our legs extended forward. And feel your heels into the mat. You can bend your knees a little bit if you need to. We're going to bring the arms up over the head now. And just start by interlacing your fingers. And you're going to press the heels of your hands up and stretch through your arms. You can get a little bit into your side bodies. You can let your arms move from side to side. Just because in Vinyasa Yoga we like to think about, we're going to do what feels good. And we always need to counter each pose that we're doing. So if you bend backwards, you always want to bend forwards afterwards. And that's what I teach, Vinyasa Yoga. And so with a little bend in your knees, come back to neutral. Flex your toes back towards your heart. Lift your heart up. And as you exhale, you're going to reach your arms forward and you're going to pull the back of your heart back. So now we start to roll into that tailbone area that we told you not to do, but I always like to break the rules a little bit. And then come back up, feel the Mula Bandha point on the mat, pulling up. Let's do that 2 more times. Exhale, pulling the heart back, reaching the heels of your hands forward, and then coming right back on up. 1 more time. And right back up. Beautiful. And this time, as you exhale, we'll release the interlace of our fingers and grab forward. You can see if you can grab for your feet, your toes. If that's not accessible, you can also just grab for the calves. And then you're going to bend your elbows down, release the weight of your head so that your chin comes towards your chest. And then we start to integrate our Jalandhara Bandha, right? So our 3 major bandhas, the root, the lower abdominals, and then right here at the throat. So when chin to chest in our forward fold, we feel this almost like a circuit has been completed. Let's take a few breaths. As you inhale, reach your heart forward, touch your Mula Bandha down. And then exhale, release your head down. 2 more times. Inhale, reach your heart forward. And exhale. 1 more time. Nice long spine. And exhale. Awesome. Walk yourself back up to sitting tall. Bring your hands behind your back, fingertips forward, and you're just going to reach the heart up. Now, if you want a little bit of a challenge, you can point your feet, keep your heels on the earth, and just lift your pelvis up off the floor a little bit.
Just when I was starting to sunbathe. Okay, lift my feet up.
This is optional. And you want to keep an apple under your chin unless your throat is open enough to let your head fall back just a little bit. Take 1 more breath, lift the pelvis up, and then bring the sitting bones back down. Now bend your knees. We'll bring the soles of the feet back to touch. You can hold onto your ankles, or you can hold your feet like a little tiny book. That's what I always call it. You can open the book if you want and see what is inside the pages.
I like that.
The whole universe in your feet, right? Just like your palms. And then you're going to pull with your arms, pull your elbows towards your side ribs, lift your heart forward and up. As you exhale, reach the heart forward and release your head down into Baddha Konasana. And just like we did before.
While we are in the posture, may I add something?
Yes.
Baddha Kona is cobbler, correct?
What was that?
Baddha Kona is cobbler posture, correct?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
I've actually seen a cobbler in India work with his feet this way.
Oh, yes. I always try to explain that to my students, but I don't understand it. So they hold the shoe between the feet?
They have a big metal nail right here between the feet, and then your shoe goes upside down. They hammer away.
Oh, that's really cool.
Oh, wow.
I also try to always explain cow face pose, Gomukasan.
Right.
And I'm like, I think it looks like a cow with ears, but
One ear up and one ear
I'm just
down.
repeating what I hear from other teachers.
No, but cobblers, I actually interviewed the guy and he said he never gets constipated.
That's wonderful. He probably won't have any issues with
so good.
prostate cancer or anything in the
I'm
lower
sure.
chakras. So let's take one more Inhale, reach the heart forward. And exhale, release your head down. Beautiful. Go ahead and press.
Dance training. Wow, look at you go all the way
Oh,
down.
and I mean, these are the poses I just crave. I love getting into my hips, so that's what I'm good at now. You like what you're good at, right?
That's true.
Go ahead and close your knees, and let's do one more where we lean back, fingertips forward. You're going to bring your feet to be as wide as your mat, and you're going to knock your knees together. Now you can stay right here, or if you want, you can windshield wiper the knees, so you drop your right knee inside. Start to feel the internal rotation in your hip. And then switching to the other side. Left knee drops center. You feel your hip flexor and you feel your quad releasing a little bit. Let's do one more time to the first side. Right knee drops in.
It's interesting, Micheline, if you feel the same way, let me know. I feel this is one of the few postures, I don't even know if it has a name, but it gives a nice stretch to the abductors outside. We don't really get that.
This is a good one for New Yorkers too. Anything for the IT band or the adductors, because we have so much cement.
So good.
Yeah, totally. Now bring your knees back together, sit back up. We're going to come onto all fours. So bring your feet around behind you. Come onto all fours, hands and knees. And then I want to make our way first into child's pose. So you'll bring your knees wide if you're a beginning yoga student, or if you just want a little bit more space. Bring your big toes to touch. Sit your seat back. And then I like to get my seat down first, pull my belly button up, close my ribs, and then I reach.
Oh, that is so smart.
Yes.
Pulling my belly in helps.
Oh, because it gets rid of...
a lot of it. You're tripped.
But that's awesome cueing.
It is very
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're also involving our bandhas that way.
Right.
So you can feel here in your child's pose, your mula bandha winking. You can feel your lowest abdominals engage. And you can even melt your third eye down, center your forehead onto the mat. And you're being pulled here in two opposite directions. So you're reaching forward through your fingertips and you're reaching back through your sitting bones. And you want to try to keep your elbows off the mat so that your arms are actively engaged.
Oh, cue me when I need to wake up because I can sleep here. It feels so good.
Take one more breath, how about? Expand your belly into your lap. And exhale. Beautiful. We're going to look forward. Come back up onto all fours. And now we'll keep our hands towards the top of the mat. Spread all 10 fingers wide. Feel like you're clawing your fingertips in. And then maybe a slight turn out of your hands so the pointer fingers go forward. This is going to be important for our elbows. So we want to think about our foundation. In downward facing dog, our foundation is our hands and our feet. So we bend our elbows just a little bit. You're going to lift your knees off the mat and just walk through your feet.
Oh, this is what our director wanted us to cue. So this is downward facing dog.
Here we are in downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. And you'll notice that Micheline's head is between her arms.
Right.
Mine is not because I'm looking at the camera. But that's what we want to move towards. You want to bring your shoulders wide away from your ears, and eventually we melt the head down. And I always tell my students that it's like you're looking at your pedicure. So if you haven't had time to get your nails done, this is where the truth comes out. And I bet you a lot of my students go to get their nails done right after my class.
Immediately after class.
Yes. So at some point you're going to bend your knees just a little bit and keep thinking about your heels melting down into the mat. And now here we come to our pelvis again. We want to feel like we're tipping our pelvis forward, like a bowl of water spilling forward. And so your head keeps melting down, but your sitting bones seem to lift up and back.
Should I keep my legs straight or bend?
I would keep your knees slightly bent.
Slightly bent.
Because most of the time if you extend through your legs,
Right.
you are getting a nice stretch. But in this pose especially, you want to think more of a stretch in the muscles above the knee
Right.
and a stretch of the muscles
Upper back.
below the knee, not necessarily
Makes sense. Yeah.
right behind. Yeah.
I do get a better stretch if my knees are bent a little. I can feel it.
And now let's bring our knees back down to the mat. you usually want to stay in down dog traditionally for at least 5 breaths, right? We probably did like 10.
For a moment, I thought you were going to say 5 minutes, and then, whoa.
I thought so too, because we were
Oh,
there
that's
for a
just
while.
insane.
I'll be
So,
also- oh,
yep, if you need to
we're following your
counterpose.
cue, whatever you're doing.
Exactly, that's
Feels
what my
so
body
good.
wanted. So you
Yeah,
can let your
feels so
pelvis
good.
touch down, and then notice how my shoulders are around my ears. I want to bend my elbows, squeeze my elbows into my ribs, and then roll my shoulders down my back, lift my heart up. So this is a perfect counter pose for what we just did. Then you're going to lift your lowest abdominals up. We find ourselves here, a little bend in our elbows still. This is a modified plank. My toes are tucked behind me. If I want, I can lift my knees up and find myself.
My least favorite posture.
And I
I'm
think
going to try.
I think a lot of people say that. And it's, I think, because most people feel really heavy in the posture. But I like to bend my elbows, and I like to think about pressing through my toes. And then I lift my Uddiyana Bandha. I engage my Mula Bandha. And all of a sudden I feel a little bit lighter. And it's like I'm on fire, but I'm still a little bit lighter. And then you're going to lift your seat up, melt your head back down. If you want, you can walk out your legs again. Beautiful. So our pelvis does 2 different things in those poses. Here it's tipping forward. And then if you come back through plank again, your pelvis is kind of neutralizing. You don't want to tip it forward because then your belly sinks down. You want to kind of pretend that your tailbone is going through your legs a little bit. So we're neutralizing our pelvis by engaging our lower abdominals. Once again, exhale.
Micheline,
Yes.
Good. She's hanging in there. Me, I'm
She's a
struggling.
warrior. And then slowly start to walk your hands back towards your feet. We'll probably need to step forward for the camera. So you at home can stay at the back of your mat and adjust your clothing, of course. And then here we're going to be in our Uttanasan. And I'm sure you've done this pose many times in your program.
Good. Yes.
Just like in down dog, you need to keep your knees just a little bit bent. Let your head go. Also, just like in down dog, we're tipping our pelvis forward. So even at home, if you want, you can take your thumbs into your hip crease, and you can just tip, again, like a bowl of water, tipping forward. And then you feel this lengthening underneath the glutes, where the hamstrings and the glutes come together. You might even slightly turn your toes inward, and I heard you say in your video, put the brakes on. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So put your brakes on, and then you can feel your sitting bones actually coming apart a little wider. We expand in the back of our pelvis, our sacroiliac area. Some of you might grab either elbow, pull your elbows down. And by the way, I hold the poses for quite a while, so if anyone needs to take a break, obviously you can always come out of the pose, you can sit, you can breathe, take a sip of water, meditate, whatever needs to happen.
Have a donut.
Have a donut. I had 2, and I feel crazy. And then release your arms down. Just once you can shimmy your body from side to side. Let your head be heavy here. Feel weight in the balls of your feet, not so much in the heels of your feet. So eventually, we're bringing our hips forward to stack over the heels. And then bend the knees. Bring your hands onto your shins. You're going to press through your shins and reach the top of the crown of your head forward. Now, as opposed to looking forward with your whole face like I've been doing the whole video, let just the top of your head reach, so you're holding an apple under your chin, and you can look forward with your eyes, but not quite with your whole face. My knees are still micro bent, and I'm thinking about my belly lifting up off my thighs, and I'm still tipping my pelvis forward, which really supercharges that stretch for you. Exhale, release. Beautiful. Bend the knees again, and now feel like you're picking up the floor with the root of your pelvis. So you engage your Mula Bandha, you engage the muscles at the crease between your belly and your thighs, and you slowly start to roll up. My chin is going to make contact with my chest. And now we're coming to stand. And your palms face forward, arms down your sides. And just take a moment to to let the circulation kind of catch up with your body because we've stood up from being down for so long. You can have a little bend in your knees. Feet can be 2 fists apart. You're going to bring your arms up over your head. And then you're going to exhale your hands to your heart. Beautiful. Take a moment. Feel your body. Feel all the different changes. And don't let your Mula Bandha release yet, because if you let the floor of your pelvis release, your pelvis is going to tip forward, your belly will spill forward. We want to keep lifting the root up. Neutralize the pelvis. So you have space at your lower back, but you also have space in your lower abdominals. Bring your arms up one last time above your head. Lift the heart, but keep the shoulders down, and exhale, hands touch back at the heart. Beautiful. That's what I have for this.
No, that is beautiful. I cannot tell you how good it feels, Drue. And I don't think we did more than 5 or 6 postures, right?
No, it's simple.
Very focused.
Feels like
Very
and it
focused.
feels like a complete workout. We just have another minute and a half to go when we're going to roll credits after a minute. But I want you to tell us, what was the trick? You have about, just like in the TV show, other TV shows, it's like you have 1 minute to go. In 60 seconds, you were talking about activating the pelvic region. Tell our viewers how, you were talking about Muladhara chakra, so would you tell our viewers what exactly is happening when you talk about activating? Are you feeling active enough to start walking, or are we supposed to feel rested? Are we...
It's about bringing awareness to that part of your body. So people experience in different ways. It could be like a tingling, it could be a warmth, it could be an
That's
expansion.
the Kundalini energy rising.
Yeah,
That's where it
exactly.
starts. So it starts from the pelvic region.
And for me, it's the breath carries the energy. So when you're breathing down in the beginning, you inhale, you feel the belly expand, you feel the pelvis expand because of the expansion of the belly.
Right.
And it's like everything is just like, and because of all that added breath,
Right.
you're getting
Your mind
good
is
stuff.
actually
The
channeling
brain
it.
chemicals are activating. It's good stuff.
So like, as Micheline also pointed out, I love the cueing that you gave, so it felt great. Viewers, stay with us. Next episode, we're going to have Drue back again. He has promised to come back, and he's going to give us another segment of his training. Micheline will be with us as well. Thank you. And Drue, Kyle, our director, are we good to wrap up?
Yes, we're done.
Okay, we're going to do our own fancy stuff if you're still rolling. But I love the pigeon. I'm just going to get
Yeah.
my little workout on the pigeon. Oh, this feels good. I love that pelvic movement thing. I'm going to have to incorporate that in my
Yes.
I love the, what did you cue about the belly going into
Right.
the child's pose?
Yeah.
That was really nice. Tuck it in or something.
Totally.
Oh.